Hi everyone, it's Jack. I wanted to make this video about multiple chemical sensitivity, which is one of my issues, um, and just to give you guys an example of what people that have MCS go through. I I took you guys to a trail that I used to take 3 years ago when I was in the uh, I guess the extreme symptoms of my multiple chemical sensitivity. And I hope this video highlights that this is a real condition and that people do really smell to extreme degrees, degrees that people cannot even imagine. Um, I'm doing this in my truck right now because it's a little windy outside and the sound may not be that good. But I'm gonna take you guys. I'm gonna leave my truck and I'm gonna leave my video camera on, and I'm gonna walk from the parking lot to the trail, and I'm gonna go show you. I'm gonna show you guys the I guess the line of sight that I had that day, and I could see all the way down the trail on both sides. And there was not a person in this parking lot when I got here, and not a person down that trail. And yet I could smell severely. Um, I guess it probably, hindsight being 2020, it probably was somebody's laundry detergent. And so I could smell down this trail, um, as if I had put my head inside a canister or a bucket of laundry detergent. Uh, Probably it was Gain or one of those really smelly laundry detergents, but I could smell intensely uh, this person's detergent. But you'll see how far away the person was from where I was at the time. So I was wearing a mask from my vehicle up to the entrance of the trail because I at the time I couldn't stand the fumes that my own vehicle emitted. So I would wear a mask to leave my house, enter my vehicle, and then leave the vehicle. And once I got on the trail system, I would go very early in the morning. So there was usually I would only meet two or three people that day per day. Um, and but yet uh, I had to carry my mask and often would have to uh, wear my mask when I would see people coming or uh, just steer off the road, or anyways I had to avoid people. Um, so yeah, so here we go. This is the mask that I used to wear. It's made by Rest Pro. It's a it's a sports mask made for running. Uh, and running, um, sweating is something that's very useful to somebody that has multiple chemical sensitivity. It allows you to detox detox your body as you sweat. Your sweat um, is one way that we can expel toxins from our body. And um, once I realized that, I took up running because running is something that requires very little concentration, and it's something that we can do at different degrees. You know, you don't need to be a marathon runner to do it. The key is to, and you can do this walking. The key is to get dressed in warm clothes so that you can generate enough body heat to cause your body to sweat. And once you've done your exercise, you want to go back home and shower as quickly as you can and wash off the toxins so they don't get reabsorbed in your body. But sweating, if there's one thing I can recommend to anybody with MCS, uh, is if you try to do some mild activity and dress yourself so that you allow yourself to sweat. And go to somewhere where either for a walk on a beach or a secluded trail where you're not going to meet too many people that may cause you to have a reaction. But or get yourself a treadmill and do it in your house. But even the treadmill, sometimes, you know, the moving parts and the rubber, you may have reactions to that. So, but get yourself a mask. And I know I had issues at first wearing the mask. It would cause anxiety to come out. You know, it's kind of embarrassing. It's humbling to realize that you can't even go outside, you know, to go for a walk without wearing a mask. But that was in my past. As you noticed, I'm not wearing a mask now. I keep it with me, but for emergencies only. But I haven't had to wear it in probably 2 years. So in the rest of this video, I'll give you guys some more pointers how to heal from MCS. But all right, now I'm going to go down the trail and show you guys how sensitive I was 3 years ago. So this is basically from something that happened to me in the summer of 2015. So there's my truck, and here's the trail. Just going down the trail right now. You can see I'm in a wooded area. There's an Air Force base behind me, so you hear a helicopter, but it's a fairly secluded area. And usually what I would do is I'd wear my mask all the way to this tee off here in the trail, and I'll show you guys the line of sight that you get on either side of this. So, you know, when I get here, I would check for people. Nobody on that side, and nobody on that side. You can see how far that distance is. I'm gonna walk it and just keep track of the actual distance, and I'll let you guys know. But it's about the same distance either way. And the parking lot is way over there. Okay, so the distance from where I was, which is basically behind me over there, to this bend here behind me, it's about 150 meters. So the day I was running, I ran to this point here where I'm now at, and as I got around this bend, you know, I had to run with my mask because the smell was so strong that it was making me nauseous, you know. So I ran around this bend here, and just as I got around the bend, there were two ladies that I had remembered seeing before, and every time I used to meet these two ladies, I always had to put on my mask because they smelled very strong of detergent, laundry detergent. Their clothes basically is what I was smelling. And so as I get around this bend, which is basically, you know, this turn here, there were these two ladies, and I was wondering, you know, to myself, like, can't be that that's what I smelled, was these two ladies. On that day, there was a breeze crossing across the trail, and, you know, I'm outside. The smells cannot be confined in any way. It's not like inside a building. And as I got around them, I passed them because I was running, you know, and they were walking. And so I said, oh, well, time to do the test. So I took off my mask, and sure enough, they were the ones that had made that smell, because ahead of them I wasn't smelling anything. So immediately, of course, I was looking for wind direction, thinking maybe the wind was pushing the smell down towards where I was at the start of the trail, but no, the wind was crossways across the trail. So it was them that I smelled. Their smell had lingered, and 150 feet away from them, as they had passed, I could still smell them. And to give you guys maybe some perspective of when you have MCS, if you have a severe MCS as I had, the symptoms that you would have when you smelled something like that. I mentioned nausea. Of course, nausea would. There was literally times where I was running that I would have to walk off the trail and head into the woods and throw up because of the nausea. The other thing that would happen is I would get extreme, uncontrollable anger, feelings of anger. Like somebody had wronged me, of course. It's this whole victimization that I'll talk about some more, maybe some other video, but. It's it is one of those rabbit holes that you want to really try to avoid if you have MCS. This whole idea of victimization, it doesn't help. If anything, it makes things worse. So I really recommend against trying to control, have your environment made safe outside your house. You can't change the world by yourself, and the obsession with it leads just down a rabbit hole. So what's important is to try to do everything you can do to heal yourself in a safe way, So I'm gonna make the next part of the video from my house and show you guys the steps that I took to heal from MCS. Talk to you later. Alright, so I started this video on MCS a couple of weeks ago, and I hinted that I was going to be given some pointers of some things you could do to help with the symptoms. So this is probably the best thing I would recommend. I guess the most excessive, easy to get cure, I guess, for the average person. It's called Chaga Tea, and I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. And I actually am very fortunate to have Chaga right here next to my cottage. So this is a chunk of Chaga. This is what it looks like up close. Looks like burnt charcoal on a tree, and it is it's a fungus, and it's known as the most powerful medicinal fungus in the world. If you open up any book on mushrooms, they will all say this is the most powerful fungus there is. And I've been drinking this for about 3 years, and I'm going to show you guys how to harvest it. So I just use this it's a Fisker's knife and a little hammer here, and I'm going to try to hold my phone and chop this. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, but here we go. So I basically put this tree's I'm gonna end up cutting this tree down, so I'm gonna harvest all of it. Usually you leave 1/3 behind because it will regrow over a few years, but I'm gonna try to get all of this. Just gonna get my bowl here. And I'll take it in the house and show you guys what I do with it. Sorry, should have taken the camera rather than my phone. So this is what's left on the tree. It's kind of an orangey brown, dark brown, and this is the chunk. Chunking this up, giving it to some to my neighbor. So I'll take this in the house and show you guys how to prepare it. Here's what I do. I have basically my chunk of chaga, so what you want to do is you want to wash it because it could be some bugs on it, or spider webs and stuff, right? Because you just pick something from the woods. So I usually wash it, and I just did. And then I've got an old knife, so basically you can tell the back of the blade here has been hit with a hammer. So a hammer, an old knife, and a good quality coffee grinder. You want one with a steel bowl all the way up like this. And what happens is the chaga is very hard. If this part is plastic, you will end up breaking it. So with this one, what's great is only the top here is plastic, and so as the chaga is bouncing around, it's just bouncing on the edges here. So all you do is you break it up in little chunks, and fresh chaga can be cut as I just did. It will actually cut like a hard I guess. So it does tend to go all over the place when you're breaking it. Doesn't help that I'm doing this one hand, so you get the idea of the chopping. So I'll just show you guys here what it looks like when you grind it. What you want to be doing is you want to break it up into small chunks, and even that's a little big, but something like this, it's about half an inch square chunks inside the grinder. It's like that. And just put enough to cover the blades, and then let it rip. And you want to grind until you stop hearing the chunks going around. And see how there's still a couple chunks in there. So just grind a little bit more. And those two little balls are still in there, but I'll just pick them out. So that's what it looks like. Looks like ground coffee. So Chaga, when properly prepared, looks like Pepsi, I guess. See if I hold it up to the light, you'll see it's pretty thick, pretty dark stuff, and you can't really see through it. Stuff I drink, anyways, and it helps with multiple chemical sensitivity. I have a friend who has high blood pressure, and he takes this to control his high blood pressure. So does my father. My father's 74, and he'd been on high blood pressure medication for about 25 years, and he started drinking Chaga, and he had to actually go off his high blood pressure medication because his pressure was dropping too much. So that's about the only side effect medication is high blood pressure. It just tends to make your high blood pressure medication work better. So I'd caution you, if you have high blood pressure, to monitor your blood pressure as you're drinking it. It does takes care of cholesterol problems. It anxiety. It's also great for anxiety, and that's why it helps with MCS also. It helps you to not have a panic attack when you smell stuff. Also helps, like I said, with cold, flus, just your immune system in general. I've made a few different things with it. I made maple syrup with it this year. So and I made some maple Chaga candies, and that was actually quite good. Everybody really loved it. So there'll be future videos. Maybe I'll go into that. Or anyways, this is the best cure I could recommend you for Chaga, or for multiple chemical sensitivity. Another thing I would recommend is this stuff. So I take basically 3 types of supplements. I take Chaga tea. I take this magnesium. Extra strength. This Magnesium Glycinate. It's by Health First. I've tried many different brands. This is probably the best brand I have found. When I was in this specialty clinic for people with MCS, the only treatments they had was magnesium. The only medical treatments, I guess, were magnesium IV treatments. So they're basically giving you high doses of magnesium through IV, and sauna. So the magnesium, when people were in the clinic, over 50% of the people that went through the clinic were found to have a magnesium deficiency. So that's people with different chronic conditions such as multiple chemical sensitivity, fibromyalgia, various chronic pain issues, and most of them, over half of them, were diagnosed to be deficient in magnesium. So there's a good chance that if you have MCS, magnesium will help with your symptoms. And the third thing I take is vitamin C. I found that Chaga takes away a bunch of different allergies, and for some reason vitamin C seems to take care of the rest. So where I say Chaga takes care of 75% of my environmental symptoms, especially the MCS, the Chaga seems to work, or the vitamin C seems to work really well with pollen and dust and things like that. So I take those 3 supplements. And that's it. That's all I take for medication. And bye for now. Alright, so I've got my Chaga all ground up. So what I do with them usually is I keep my Chaga in the freezer. You'll see a lot of guys that will dry it up, and it's a very complicated thing to dry Chaga. Not complicated, but it's just something that I find is a bit of a pain in the butt. And then I just keep it fresh. I'm trying to get a good shot here. Sorry, guys. See. I keep it fresh in a jar in the freezer. And I found that dry Chaga tends to turn bitter, whereas the fresh Chaga just stays delicious, yummy. So that's what I recommend. Grind your Chaga fresh if you're able to pick it. If you're not, then you have to buy it for like $50 a pound in a health food store. Then usually it's dry, but if you ever get a chance to get fresh Chaga, freshly picked, you'll find that it's much better tasting. I found that as soon as I started drinking Chaga, I had more energy from Chaga than I did from coffee, so I gave up coffee. I don't drink any. Well, I drink coffee, I guess, more of a social drink at this point. But the Chaga I drink 3 times a day. When I first started working, after being out of work or off work for about over just maybe a year and a half, I was taking a large thermos with me to work, and I would drink one of these things. It was basically maybe 2.5 cups, 3 cups throughout my day. And of course, as the word started getting around that I had Chaga, my friends were always asking, so I got a bigger thermos. So this is a 40 ounce thermos, and I would fill this every morning, take it into work, and just share with some friends. Chaga, fresh Chaga, and everybody was always had a cup or two for people who had a cold or whatever extra, and that's great. Great way to help with your friends' health. So if you have, or you're able to get Chaga, and like I can get, as you've seen, I have a chunk of Chaga right next to my cottage. I give it away to friends. I never sell it. So, yeah. So that's my story on Chaga. Please, if you have MCS, go to your health food store and give this stuff a try. You should notice some benefits right away from it. For me, it was the very first cup. Within a half hour, I felt the energy boost from the Chaga, and my symptoms, my sensitivity to Chaga started going down. So, and it gradually improves over time, year over year. So, bye for now. So as I'm doing this Chaga video, I realized that I haven't showed you guys how to prepare Chaga. So, or given some decent instructions on it. So here's some instructions. You see me grind it up. So then what I do is I take the grinds out of my freezer, and I keep them in these nice little square jars here. And the reason I use these square jars is just for space savings in the freezer. If I have something round, it's not as efficient as a little square jar. So always keep your Chaga in glass rather than plastic. Then it won't absorb any of the plastics. If you have MCS, you're going to be sensitive to plastics. So I bottle everything in glass. And so then what I do is I've got this this pot here, you can see behind me, that I keep on the stove. and this basically stays there year round. um, it's a nice, deep pot. Probably a couple liters of water in here for sure. Um, and then what I do is I take a tablespoon out of this frozen chaga. I pour it in there, and um, I'll boil it for 15 minutes. And the key is at least 15 minutes. What you want to do is you want to get the water to mix in with the chaga as it's boiling. Um, you'll see some videos that people say, don't boil your chaga, you lose some of the properties. I've tried it every different way, and I found that boiling the chaga gives it a better taste. And I haven't noticed any of the effects, um, or the benefits not working when I boil it versus if I just. Some people say just warm it up at a low temperature and to then bottle it and put it in the fridge. So there is some truth to that. You do get some of the enzymes in the mushroom. It is food, so that if you boil it, you kill off some of these enzymes. So, however, I haven't found that they make a difference for MCS. So boiling is fine. So I boil in my chaga for 15 minutes, and a tablespoon of fresh grounds in at least a liter of water. And then what you do is once you've got it boil 15 minutes, you turn off your pot, and you just allow the grinds to just settle to the bottom here. And then I just use a lathe and I scoop some out and to my glass and or my cup. So you just let it settle. 5 minutes is enough. The grinds are fine, and they'll just settle down as soon as the boiling is done. And I'll add maple syrup to it as a sweetener. I find it just gives it a really delicious taste, and I just got used to when I make in the winter, I'll make my own maple syrup, so I just got used to having that fresh maple sap mixed with chaga taste. So I don't always put it in, but if I'm in the mood for something yummy, I will put some maple syrup in it. And then what you can do is you just leave the grinds in that pot, and then the second time you add water. So as you're scooping out, you get to the point where maybe there's a cup left in there, a cup of liquid left. So then you just add another liter of water. So the second time you don't add chaga, and then you can boil it for a half hour. Just boil it a little bit longer, and you'll see that the grinds are still releasing lots of chaga into the water. So you get a nice mixture. And the third time I'll add another tablespoon of grinds in it. So every second time you're adding water, you're adding grinds. And I'll keep that chaga in the pot for a month, 2 months, sometimes. And towards the end, what I'll do is I'll give it a good boil, like 45 minutes, and it will release a lot of the stuff. Then I'll add water one more time, boil it again for a good little while, and then I'll start a new batch. So I'll take those grinds, and there's a couple things you can do with those grinds. You can put them in your garden. It's a great fertilizer. So I haven't tried, tomato grown in chaga or anything like that, but maybe I will, just to see if there's a difference versus regular dirt. But it is known to help out with the garden. And then, You know, if you're like me and you like to try different things, I'll just show you a few of the things I've made with it. I mentioned it in the video earlier. I've made this stuff, which is basically Chaga candy, and here we go. So what this is I'll show you the other stuff I've made. Actually, I made 7 bottles of this stuff this year, which is Chaga Maple Syrup. So it's basically maple syrup, maple sap that I made with the same process as you know, my boil the pot here, but I put my sap right into the Chaga, and then I filter it, and it's the whole process. But in the end, I end up with maple Chaga syrup, and it's amazing stuff. A tablespoon of this is like drinking a cup of the Chaga, and it has all the same actually better allergy benefits, because it's really super concentrated Chaga. And I made something, the most delicious thing I made. Well, this is a tie between the maple candy and this stuff, which is maple Chaga butter. So I'll just show you guys what this stuff looks like. It's really creamy. I'm just gonna grab a spoonful of it so you can see what it looks like. If you've had maple butter before, you know, I live in Canada, so I would say, you know, every grocery store here carries maple butter. Not everybody's tasted it, but I grew up on a sugar farm. My father had, you know, maple trees, and so it was kind of funny when I was making this stuff, you know. I was like, Dad, I called him up, Dad, what do I do now? I got it at the right temperature. And he was like, oh, you gotta freeze it, you gotta put it in snow. So there I am running outside with the pot of, you know, because as you're boiling it, you gotta get it out, you gotta cool it down really fast, otherwise it'll turn from this buttery, you can see it's about to drip here, it's got a kind of a buttery, almost like a caramel consistency, and delicious on your toast in the morning. So yeah, so there my father's helping me to make this stuff. I'm outside in the snow with the pot in the snow, trying to cool down my pot, and you have to use a wooden spoon, so there I am with the spoon mixing it, you know, and this was the end result. It's absolutely delicious. Maybe next year I'll make some videos just showing you guys more detail how I actually make the maple syrup. I'm gonna throw a couple pictures, funny pictures of the first year I made maple syrup on this video, just so you can see some of the crazy stuff I've done. The first year I made maple syrup, I didn't have any official maple syrup, you know, making equipment. So I just went out with pop cans and straws and drilled a hole in the tree and stuck the pop can in put a screw in the tree and hang the pop can off the tree and stuck the straw in the hole, and that was my maple syrup production. Now I had to run down every 15 minutes to empty them, but it still ended up with some really good, yummy maple syrup. I'll show you what the actual maple syrup looks like. It is quite unique. When you make your own stuff, you end up with where is it? So this is my maple Chaga syrup collection here. So I've got 6 bottles made, and oh, here it is. And this is the actual maple syrup I made. So What's really hard with making this stuff is the filtering, and you can see the stuff in the bottom. It isn't, didn't go bad or anything. It's just when you don't have, the professional filters, you can't get all these little particles out. So over time, there's particles, tiny little particles of wood, and they settle to the bottom. So, but you can see the color of this stuff. I mean, there's a color scale of maple syrup, and the lighter, the better the quality. And so this is pretty much as light as it gets. It's like gold, almost like a hard to describe. Looks like liquor. Oh, and by the way, those of you who like rum, Chaga and maple syrup with a little bit of rum is amazing. Bye for now.